Hello and welcome to Live Your Love, beloved viewers and listeners. I have such a treat for you today. Today I have beautiful author, mystic facilitator, and just gorgeous woman, Rebecca Campbell. Hello and welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. Hi.
So we are just delighted to have you. We have so many synchronicities, which I will share about in just a moment. So, beloved listeners, I will tell you a little bit about Rebecca and then how I know her. And today's show is really going to be special for so many reasons, but I am very excited about this time together as we drop in deeply. So I'll read your bio and then we will call on the light. So Rebecca Campbell is a writer, channel, artist, poet, mystic, and mother, bridging the worlds of spirituality and creativity. And her design is second to none. You must go to her website just to see her beautiful creativity. Her creations are dedicated to weaving the sacred back into everyday life. Born in Australia, Rebecca now lives in Glastonbury. As a child, she was fascinated by the great mysteries, and at 18, she answered an inner call to take a solo pilgrimage to discover the sacred sites of her ancestry. She's trained in many disciplines since and has several initiatory awakening experiences, all of which inform her creative process. A prolific, creative, and spiritual guide, Rebecca is the founder of the Inner Temple Mystery School, accredited training, Oracle card reader certification training, and the Sanctuary community. It's a beautiful bio. And what you don't mention in all your humility is 4 books now, 40 million card decks. I can't think it's 6. Oh my goodness, girl, you are prolific.
Oh, thank
and
you.
I'm going to tell everybody how to find you. Well, we can go and tell RebeccaCampbell.me. Lots of beautiful free resources. I met Rebecca about a year ago, a little bit less, at an I Can Do It event in Arizona at a Hay House cocktail party. And we had a brief...
You were in red, I remember. Or maybe it was the next day you were in red. One day you were in red. That's just how I imagine you.
Yeah. Goodness.
Who is that lady in red?
That is amazing. Yes, I was in red. And I attended your event, sat right in the front row, saved a seat for Sean Leonard and his wife. And we dove deeply. It was a beautiful event. And I just, my beloved listeners and viewers, you're going to see so much similarity between Rebecca and I. It is stunning, truly. So is there anything you'd like to say before we dive into a few questions?
No, I'm excited.
Beautiful. So let's start, as we always do, with calling in the light, and then we're going to have a soul-led conversation. And so, my beloveds, just open your heart. If you're driving, keep your eyes open. If not, just gently close your eyelids and tap your third eye and just say open. And your crown chakra, and say open, being aware that this is all heartfelt, heart-led. And just take a deep breath and breathe in all the love of the universe, of Mother Gaia, of the divine feminine. Breathing in that love, and as you exhale, just let go of anything less. As we affirm the miracle of the moment, whatever you've perhaps been challenged to let go of. This is the moment, my beloveds. Deep breath in, breathe in the light of the Holy Spirit. Exhale with some sound. Let go of anything less than light. You are born the beloved. Now this is a gentler breath. It's just receive the breath from the beloved Father, Mother, God. And as you gently give the breath back, you just give back any seeming separation from the divine. And just keep breathing in love, breathing out anything less as we call in the light. Truly, as we call ourselves forward into the light that is always with us, within us, as us. Asking that any negativity, untoward energy, karma, limiting beliefs. Let's just let it all go and ask that it be taken and transmuted. As we come into the sacred silence and sound of this moment, into the light of the Holy Spirit, placing Rebecca, myself, this gathering, each one present, each one to listen to the archives, all into the light of the Holy Spirit. Connecting to spiritual, eminent presence and assistance on every levels. The great archangels, the Christ, our ancestors, the Divine Mother, Father, all that is holy. May you enter in, and may we know ourselves as one with that which is God, Goddess, the light. And just everyone now, just be aware of joining heart to heart with each other, feeling hands in your hands as we are connected beyond time and space. We are one, we are love, we are present, we are blessed. As is this gathering, blessed in every way, in alignment with the highest good, and so be it. Blessed be and amen. And Rebecca, is there anything you would like to add to this invocation?
Yeah, just really calling that ancient part of us that chose to be here in this body, on this planet at this time. Really inviting that part of us to step forward and more fully into the cells of our bodies, to the earth, to our humanity. And just perhaps like reaching out for the thread that is this golden thread that's leading us every moment of every day in our life. This is also like this healing thread that we came in with, doing our part to weave the healing of humanity at this time.
May it be so. Blessed be. Well, as much as I would love to sit in this glorious silence, I think we're supposed to talk.
No.
So and the great news, beloveds, is this is part one of a part two series with Rebecca. So that's truly exciting. I have no fewer than 8 synchronicities already with you and I.
Tell me.
You see, well, I'm going to tease you because I'm going to tell you through questions. So the first synchronicity, of course, is we're both Hay House authors. You've written 85 things with Hay House. I'm on my first. And our beautiful Patty Gift has a saying, which I'm sure you've heard because Robert Holden told it to me. So she may have told you directly, but it's that the author who starts the book is not the same person who completes it. You know, that writing every book changes us. And I saw in your materials that this book, it took 7 years to write, and it really wrote you. How are you different now? How did it inform you? How did it enrich you? Tell us a little bit about how you are different than when you began writing.
Oh my gosh. I feel like the biggest way I'm different is I feel like my nervous system has been reset in the process of doing this. So that is like the biggest miracle of my life, and a miracle that I wasn't even aware of. Probably at start of writing it, I was, but yeah, that's been the biggest change in my life. And I feel like, you know, these earlier stages of awakening, which I call the ascent, like there's the ascent and then the descent. So ascent is awakening of the mind, the heart, the body. And then it's like these upward expansions of like this rising energy. And I think that that expansion that happens, which is amazing at that part of the spiritual journey. It like creates this space for the soul to come more fully in. And I think that during this time that I was writing this book, what I was really going through was this space had been created, and then the soul came in more fully. And then I think when that happens, it brings up everything that's unlike it. And so
Mhm.
it's like I've even when I teach now, there's this feeling, and I just came back from doing a retreat at the Omega Institute. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, except for there was this feeling in the ceremony where it was like there was this deep humbling, to be honest.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
knowing that, like, I don't know if you've experienced this, where it's just kind of like, when you've like really touched the ground, like you've been belly on the earth.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah. And it's like there's a safety or a trust that's deeper than ever before. And the process to kind of get there has been the complete opposite of it. Like these tools in my toolkit that really served me at different parts of my journey, all of a sudden no longer did. And I
Yeah.
think I've seen this happen so often. I'm sure you've experienced it too. It's easy to be like, oh, well, they were wrong and da da da. But it's just, we're just different people and we have different needs at different points. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm.
That's so beautifully said. And my spiritual teacher used to say, don't spurn the rungs of the ladder upon which you
Mm.
did ascend, because it all informs us and it's all texturizes us. And I know
Mm.
people can look into your eyes and read your book, and it's so gorgeous how you create this space of empathy called like, I've been there. I'm not on this,
Mm.
I'm speaking from experience, and it
Mm.
all enriches us. I love how
Mm.
you weave that into the book called, yes, there is birth, but can we also talk about death?
Mm.
There's light, but can we also talk about darkness? To me, that's the quintessence of not doing a spiritual bypass. Are you familiar with that term?
Mm. Mm. Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it's so beautifully said, so synchronicity two
Hmm.
is you talk about kirtan. By the way, I
Mm.
will tell you, my beloved listeners, I'm going to tell you now, Rebecca Campbell.me/your soul had a dream, her gorgeous book coming out. You can listen to the first chapter. I listened to it at least 3 times. I did need to listen to it for this, but then I just listened to it again because it's so beautiful.
Mm.
And you talk about this experience on your path of kirtan, and it sounds very like my path, which is a sound current initiation. It's a lot of
Mm.
different names for it, Shabda yoga, but listening to the cosmic sounds, using mantras to lift into a higher space. Is
Mm.
is this similar to your path?
Yeah,
Is it?
100%. Yeah, I was drawn to devotional chanting. I never thought it would be something that I would train in or offer in my work, but now chanting is a big part of what I do in my work. But I did it mainly, it was really when my first book was coming out, and I'd felt the call from such a young age, but it had always been really paralyzed when it came to sharing my voice. I don't know if it was a soul memory, ancestral memory, all of the above. It was a really big thing for me. So I found chanting. And when I first began chanting, oh my gosh, I touched that honey nectar that you do when yeah. Oh, and you just want to live in that space. Um,
Yes.
but it really did, it invited this coming home, and at the same time this kind of this healing that was deeper than anything ever before. I remember hearing chants and chanting over and over again, just at home myself, and tears just kind of flowing, but they weren't tears as in like, oh, this has happened. It was just literally the returning of the yearning for that oneness of source. And so Kirtan training, it was in my teacher training where I had that mystical experience where the book begins. The chapter's called Fall Into My Arms. And actually, if anyone who's watching versus listening, behind me, I've got this artwork from my second oracle deck, the Starseed Oracle. And it's a depiction of, the card is called Fall Into My Arms, just like the chapter. And it's a depiction of where I was transported as I stepped into the center of the circle during my kirtan training. The exercise was this exercise of stepping into and amongst the jagged rocks of criticism and praise. So like as a teacher or just anyone who is out in the world, oh, it's like, this is what we need to do. And the exercise was coming back to the divine, being a channel for the divine, just like we did with your beautiful meditation at the beginning, as we begun today. And yeah, if criticism comes up, coming back to center. If praise comes up, coming back to center. That was the exercise. And it was in the middle of this exercise where all of a sudden, and I knew it the moment before it happened, I went into this trance-like state and had this spontaneous mystical experience that completely changed me. And I think that part of what I think with mystical experiences or awakening experiences, unitive experiences like these, I don't think you can, it felt like a soul appointment versus like this thing where, but I think it was definitely, the conditions were prepared through the sound, through the chant, through chanting these primordial mantras that had been chanted through the ages, the sound of the universe itself. And I think that was the conditions that for whatever reason, but it did feel like a soul appointment. Like I was in a yoga studio in the middle of London city. Like it wasn't like I was at an ashram or anything like that.
Right.
But a busy street, you could hear yelling and horns and all of that. But the moment I stepped into that circle, I just knew my soul was scheduled to go deeper than before. I didn't know what was about to happen, but I entered that space that the ancient Greeks call kairos time, where it's timeless time. Like everything just stretches and you kind of just drop more fully in. Yeah. That's
Gorgeous.
beautiful that we have that in common.
Oh,
I
my
can
dear,
feel
I
that in
had,
your voice.
yes, and I feel like we're like there is no separation of many
Yeah.
thousands of miles. Yes, and my book starts with an experience in a circle.
That's
So
amazing.
my first chapter is similar to your first chapter, different,
Mm-hmm.
complementary, but yes, in a
Mm.
circle, and it is that timelessness and that space. I
Mm.
love chanting, and then of course we can hear the inner sounds, the cosmic sounds, which are so
Mm.
transporting.
Mm.
And I mean, and in fact, at any given moment, let's see, my earrings have the, wait, they're too small to see, but where's my bottle? Ah, there it is. So everything, I always have the hue sign with me. Can you
Mm.
see that? It's
Mm-hmm.
Sanskrit, an,
Mm.
an ancient name of God, Hue, H-U. Do you ever chant the
Mm.
Hue?
Mm. Mm. No, I have not, but I'm intrigued now.
Ah, I think, spoiler alert, I think when we do the meditation at the end, I would love for you and I to chant
Let's do
together.
it. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Mm.
So, yes, I moved into an ashram at 23,
Wow.
dedicated to kirtan, to chanting, to,
Wow.
you know, to me, all paths lead to the same place. And it's gorgeous
Mm.
that we're tributaries coming into the ocean of love.
Mm. Beautiful. Mm.
So, another synchronicity is you so beautifully describe, I believe you call it xenoglossy. Am I saying that correctly?
Mm. Mm.
And it's, which is and I would love to hear a little bit more about that. So my spiritual teacher calls it glossalia. And I had that experience of what I still do. My book came from the angelic language. It's hearing languages that
Mm.
you've never in this lifetime heard before, but you
Mm.
speak and understand. It's a higher form of hearing and communicating. And you share that well, I would love to hear a little bit about that. What is xenoglossy to you, and how did it change you? Tell us more.
Well, it's interesting. It seems like my path is definitely the path of the mystic, whether I like it or not, which is to have a direct experience first. I would much prefer to read
Because that's
about
such
it
an
and
easy
understand it.
path. It's
Oh
such an
my
easy path, isn't
God.
it?
I know my friend Kyle Gray, who I don't know if you've met. He wasn't
Not
able to
yet.
attend, but I know you know
Yeah.
who he is. Yeah, he
Sure.
says to me all the time, he's like, "Can you just ask your guides and angels to make it less physical?" And I'm like, "I have tried. I have tried." Oh, my path is direct. So it was the direct experience that I had first, and then I discovered that word. And so what the experience was I was hurtled. My consciousness was hurtled into the center of the earth, where I found myself in the arms of the Great Mother. And we were in the primordial waters of the mother, which I liken to being like in the waters of the womb, where we all came from, the water world before we came here. And in her arms, and she was like caressing and rocking me and holding me. I saw the gates of life. So souls entering from the left with the in breath and leaving through the right with the out breath. And then around the perimeter were ancient grandmothers of the earth, which I'd never heard of before, but I really felt like the wisdom and the age, but it was like they were future and ancient at the same time. And their song, I just heard their song going on and on and on and on, as if they were like singing us all in, all home, all out of here as well. But it's like this continuous song that has never stopped. And as they were singing their song, I was kind of apparently moving my body quite significantly, receiving souls, releasing souls, and my voice was their voice too. And one by one, it was like all these different ancient songs, none of which I had heard before, some of which were like one particular one was a chant to a particular goddess, which was very different to my personal lineage, but someone in the room recognized that. I'd never heard of that goddess. I never had heard that song before. And that's what led me to Yeye Tish, who introduced me to that word, xenoglossy. But there are several different goddess chants that came in, but there was also different chants that came in that were almost like lost language or light language. It was a combination. So it was like lots of layers of song. And the sound was the thing that was the healing. It was all the vibration of sound. And I experienced with my body like as if it was everyone in the room as well. It wasn't just while it was happening through me, it was happening collectively with us within the group. And it was as if like for each of us, the souls were coming in and out, and we're clearing the lines of ancestry. I saw all the way back to the original mother, all of the pain and particularly crimes of the feminine through the ancestral line. And eventually I came back up and yeah, and then very slowly kind of integrated back down, and we did our closing chant. And I started experiencing these codes of light, like right down into my cells. It really was this like the opposites of like heaven and earth, star and soil and seed, you know. And yeah, it felt like I said before, this expansion. The sound had caused the full opening to happen, and then
Yeah.
it was coming more soul was coming more fully in. Yeah.
That's just gorgeous. And to me, there's such an opportunity for service, for education, for ministry to bring the sound it's not talked about as much. You know, we talk about light and love and manifestation, etc. But the sound is so evocative and moving and deep and takes us right into that. To me, it's very transporting into the mystical, into that experience. It's really been the path of my entire adult life, and I think
Wow.
probably until transition into the mother's arms.
Mm.
Do you still hear those languages you heard?
Yeah, I do. I hear more the melodies, and I
Mhm.
hear like the many layers of voice. I've started recording different songs. Like I've got a song called Unbound, Unbound, Forever Unbound that I haven't it is on Spotify, and I'll be like officially like launching it in a week or so, but it's
Wow.
available now. And then it was interesting because after this experience, I was not a mother at that point. But after that experience, I ended up becoming a mother. I have 2 children now. So I physically experienced becoming a mother. And it was almost like that experience I had spiritually then came into physical form as well. And
Mhm.
yeah, and the song as well, like I started um doing these songs like for my children, but really I was kind of doing it for myself.
Mhm.
Do you know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? Like,
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm.
I don't think we can serve another without being served.
Oh, totally. And this is the thing, yeah, because yeah, being a mum has been like the hardest part of my journey for sure. Like, sleepless nights and all that, but it's way more than that. That has been the challenge for me. But it was interesting, like there is those early nights of when you have a baby where it's just like every 20 minutes, basically, you're kind of up and feeding and all of that. And I had a moment where I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this without being held myself. And I knew that conceptually, metaphorically, when it came to like the spiritual journey and lessons, but it was like you as a new mum, you often like catch yourself like rocking in the supermarket aisle or whatever. And then I realized, oh no, I need to be rocked. And so I started
Exactly.
calling in the great mother. Oh my God. It's so simple, but yeah, yeah, quite a big thing for me.
I love that. And by the way, I did that for years, and my kids are way old now. But
Really?
yeah, where it's like, yeah, you do
Yeah, you
eventually
do
stop
that spontaneous rocking. That's it, isn't
completely.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I mean, yeah, I can't quite. It's like, but it's also kind of like you're in the primordial waters in a way. And the other thing I did when I had my first baby Sonny, it was actually straight after that COVID began, and so lockdowns and all of that. So it was quite isolating as a mother. So I would go on walks with him, and
Mhm.
I remember when the Chalice Well, which is a sacred gardens here in
Mhm.
Glastonbury, where
Yeah.
the Red Spring is, I was the first one to go back in there after when they
Oh,
reopened, which was
oh,
incredible. No one had been in there for months. And there's this beautiful seat that I would sit on. It was like a rocking chair, but like, swing seat. And I sat down there and I was like, oh, this is like being rocked by the great mother herself, by the goddess. It was so good. Yeah, little things like
co-
that.
completely. And it's still such a comforting motion,
Mm,
to just
mm,
be rocked. And then you'll see people in mystical experiences where,
mm,
where they will rock. And I think that it
mm-hmm.
is reflective of being rocked by the Divine Mother and Father, God.
I so agree. We've just, because I ended up recording this, I call it the Arms of the Mother song, which is basically the hum that I have hummed to both of my kids, and I've just like layered the harmony, but it definitely is that ancient grandmother energy that is transmitting in that track. And just this month I've got my kids like little giggles in the background as well. And
Oh,
yeah,
nothing
and
more
it
precious.
oh, it's so sweet. And I started playing it in my workshops and just noticing and taking notes from it. And so then we've just started a practice I've got a membership called the Sanctuary, and this month we're doing this Arms of the Mother practice where it's like you basically take yourself into your own arms and rock yourself, which sounds crazy, but it is so soothing. And I think you're right. It does like link back to nervous system regulation and many different ancient practices. Yeah.
It also
Mm.
activates the vagus nerve, which, there's a
Mm.
lot of research on that lately. The vagus nerve is what
Mm-hmm.
brings us into a state of relaxation and peace. In this world, we
Mm.
can be, so tense, but when
Mm.
we rock, especially if you gently tap
Mm.
your right here, throat chakra, it
Mm.
activates the vagus nerve, which brings you into an exhale, your whole body
Mm.
to an
So
exhale.
good. I love it. We're
I
just going
Here's
to be
another
slowly rocking now.
Exactly. We're going to be doing this the entire time. Exactly. Yes. So here's another synchronicity. So when I
Mm.
did your workshop in Phoenix with as I mentioned, and I loved seeing how much movement you utilize. And I taught an ecstatic movement class, dance class, not so
Mhm.
much for dance, but for the sacred and spiritual evocation and invocation through movement. And it was for
Mm.
19 years I taught that class called Soul
No
Dance.
way.
19 years,
Soul
yes.
dance. Wow, that's incredible.
Soul Dance, yes. It ended with COVID, but yeah, it was in Santa Monica, which is a big part
Mm.
of LA, and also in Los Angeles at an ashram. And we
Mm.
would we would of course start with calling in the light, and it was all about inviting the body into the spiritual. So it was about
Mm.
spiritualizing the physical and clearing through the physical movement, and it was, it would start off slow and meditative with movement, and then, the music would be get really ramp up, and we'd be dancing and leaping and
Mm.
etc. And then of course at the end we would end up on the floor, completely surrendered and one with sound, and we would
Mm.
chant in it.
Mm.
So quite similar
Wow,
to what you did in your
that's
workshop.
amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and how did you start utilizing music and movement, and what does it do for you and shifting your consciousness?
Well, I think I'm one of those people who were has been dancing my whole life. But I started using like intuitive dance before I knew what I was doing. So when I was a teenager and like last years of high school, I would study. Like my brother played cricket, which is a game that takes all day long, and so my mum and dad would go to cricket with him, and I'd stay at home and do my study for my exams. And I'd do about an hour of study, and then I'd give myself a dance break. And because I had the whole house to myself, I'd put it on really, really loud and just dance however I wanted to dance, So it really was that dance like no one's watching thing. And I look back now and I see, oh my God, I was really intuitively moving. I also know now from various different workshops I've taken that moving your body helps you like embody information. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a perfect example of like, we all know deep down, but we just forget. And even in different periods of my life, I have forgotten to dance or move my body in that way. But every time I look at the big periods of transformation, it's been when I've been doing conscious, like somatic movement practice, whether it's like shaking or dancing or, whatever it is. Even and again, it's this really annoying direct experience thing where I wish I learned it first before, but like I knew I wanted to write and create. I knew my creations. I had this affirmation when I was younger. My creations inspire people all over the world. But I didn't quite know how to do it, and but in the end, it was through I had a love affair with the rose, which I can see you
Mm.
probably do because they're everywhere around you and on you right
Yes,
now. Um,
yes.
but I knew that beauty was a gateway for my soul. I knew that it lit me up, and I knew to follow that in order to find my purpose. Because I couldn't work out how I was going to make it happen, even though I could see, when you can see well into the future, but you're not quite sure the steps along the way. And so, yeah, surrounding myself with beauty was the guidance that I got. And what ended up happening was I was following this trail of beauty and flowers, and I discovered the rose garden in London, Queen Mary's Rose Garden, which is just, there's literally like 40,000 roses there. They're
Oh,
exquisite. And I would walk there every day. I was working as a creative director in advertising at the time, and I would walk to the rose garden, do some meditation, and then walk and write for like 10 or 15 minutes each day, even if it was just like a paragraph, and then I'd go to work. And that's when I really like really stepped into a big part of my calling, which was writing. And it was like, as a channel, it was like, it was never like I knew what I was going to write. It was just word, 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 word. And I find that the motion really helps me, because otherwise I need that motion in order for, yeah, and even just the other day, I've been recording the audio book just last week of my book. And I have dyslexia. I am a terrible speller. Like, I need an editor. I'm not saying I don't need an editor. I definitely need an editor. But I can tell when the bits have come in as they've come in, they have this rhythm to it, like this, like that rocking that we were doing. There's this real clear rhythm to it, versus when it's been overly edited, the energy is like disrupted. And I really struggle to read it out loud as well. And so, yeah, I think I've really been learning about that, and how, yeah, movement in the body. I think it's so easy to see the body as like, I know the body is how we receive our intuition as well. Without the body, we're not intuitive.
mhm.
But I feel like I'm always deepening my understanding of the body. Like I did see the body as the vessel, but I'm like, no, it's actually the destination. And so, yeah, yeah. But I forget that sometimes, you know?
Don't we all, my dear? And the body,
Ah,
because there's so many distractions on this
yeah.
level and perceived separation, and
Hmm.
it's a both and
Yeah, yeah.
what that was gorgeously said. You are so naturally eloquent. I wanted to share a fun. Is it William Blake? I think so.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was my a quote from him. So in my book, it's very channeled, but it's also very edited by me, also by my Hay House editor.
Mm,
But because the first book is about archangels, it's called Your
mm,
Archangelic Ancestry, and it's
mm,
very much that I downloaded it every morning, but then would edit it heavily because they can speak in a more formal way than we're used to, and
mm,
it's not as easy to read, but there are certainly passages that are direct, you know. And then I was going, well, is it okay to be editing them?
mm,
There's my an editor I worked with earlier sent me this William Blake quote where it's actually his best friend talking, saying that uh, directly quoting Blake, where he said, it must be known that my source, the source of my writing, are archangels. And, it comes directly from, I'm completely butchering this quote, but it comes directly
mm.
from the heavens. This is a
Wow.
direct transmission through
Mm.
me. And then his friend says, but given that, he did not hesitate to extensively blot out what the angel said and completely edit them. Because it's and I don't think they mind because
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
trying to manifest the unmanifest or convey the silence into words is a
Yeah.
is a
It's a
formidable
lot,
task.
isn't it? And I think as well, when we are channeling and recording, particularly if I'm not sure what your process is like, but mine tends to be like, I get them in like little pockets, and sometimes it's like repeating itself too, because it's not like I've I always try to write an outline for a book. I spend a lot of time on it, and it never ever ends up like that. And so it is like this braid that's happening. And so sometimes you do need to edit it out because, you know, one's come from 5 years ago and another has come from 5 minutes ago. And it's probably saying a similar thing.
Completely. And I think that we need to hear the same thing because it is
Mm,
bringing the mystical, there's a reason it's called
mm,
mystical,
mm,
into the comprehensible as best we
mm,
can. I know for me, I don't know about you, but I often will have I want to say this, but I can't quite get it into words, into English.
mm,
So I'm just pointing the direction. It's that way,
mm,
because, but the thing I love about that is then that allows the reader to
mm,
dive into it and make it their own, and to
mm,
know that the real communication is the experience, much well beyond the
mm,
words.
so true.
Yeah. Would tell us a little bit. I cannot believe how fast time is flying. Um, Tell us a little bit about your journey, Rebecca. So yet another synchronicity. I believe you started with winning the writers workshop
Yeah,
contest.
yeah.
Yes, did you? And how you now have exploded and are everywhere and so beloved by so many. Did you have this massive? I'm asking because I'm gonna, if with your permission, share this with the entrepreneur
Mm.
and the writers community because
Yeah,
they
totally.
people will soak it up. It's so inspiring. How did that tell us
Yeah.
the journey?
Well, I mean, I kind of I had a very like conscious awakening when I was a teenager. And that's when I kind of found my way to spiritual bookstores and you know, had some people guiding me along the way, but it was very largely just I felt really alone in it. Like you know, I was not raised to believe these things or anything like that. So it was very like finding my own path, which I think is
What were
very
you
common for
raised,
a
if
lot
I
of
might
us.
ask real quick? Sorry
Oh,
to
I
interrupt you.
was raised, I guess you say Catholic, but not overly religious. Like we went to church at Christmas and Easter, and that was about it. But I learned how to pray, and I felt very connected to Mother Mary, and I know my mom and my grandma, like they taught me how to pray and stuff, but it wasn't like indoctrinated or anything like that. But I always felt like I was always fascinated by death and um birth and the journey of the soul and all of that stuff. Like I always was like I was very sporty growing up, and I used to like pray to God before I ran a race so I would win the race. So even as like really really young, I was talking to God. um and believed in, like I would say to my mum at a very young age, like I've come here for a reason, I just need to grow up so I can go do what I came here to do. So there was definitely something within me that was beyond what I was taught. um,
Absolutely.
but then after having some very significant experiences, I found my way to, there was this metaphysical bookstore where I grew up on the northern beaches in Sydney, and I would save up my pocket money and babysitting money to buy crystals. And I remember looking at the books and like, oh, which book do I start with? I don't know. I think Peaceful Warrior was one of the first ones, and then Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, of course.
Oh,
And I remember picking that one up and just like having this vision of me with Hay House, like that publisher, and I just
wow.
knew at that point. So yeah, I'd always known that I would be published by Hay House, but I didn't know what I would write.
I
I didn't know
love
what, yeah.
this.
And
I
that's
love
what I
it.
mean. Like the vision was there, but I
Yes.
was like, it makes no sense. I
And
don't
you
know what it
weren't even
is.
visualizing it or trying to create it. You were seeing what is.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I didn't, it wasn't, yeah, it was seeing the future rather than me. There was no like, oh, I want to do this. It
Mhm.
was definitely vision rather than yeah, like manifesting
Manifestation.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that really stressed me out and frustrated me, to be honest, because I was just like, how, what the heck and
I
how,
so
and
understand.
but always knew that I had this sense of urgency of like, I came here, I need to do the thing, and I knew work was going to be part of like creations, inspiring people with creations, and that's why I went as a creative director, and it's great training. I worked as a copywriter as well, really great. Like, I had to write
Perfect.
thousands of headlines in order for one to be chosen. So it was actually very good training for confidence in writing and other things, and ideas and all of that. And
I'm
then
falling in love with marketing, which can be so many authors' nemesis, or we make it that,
oh,
like a
totally. And I don't
so
really like
that was a
marketing,
huge
but
preparation.
it was definitely good preparation. Yeah,
Yes.
100%. And yeah, aesthetics and all of that. So
Mhm.
my mum was a fashion designer, so creativity was really encouraged too. So that's probably why I went more the creative route rather than spiritual route, because I remember like meeting the only spiritual people I knew at that stage were like body workers, kinesiologists, that kind of thing. And I
Mhm.
couldn't see myself as that. I knew that wasn't my path. So yeah, anyway. But so pioneered a really successful career as a creative director, loved it in many ways, was kind of like a bit of a undercover light worker. Like I knew that I was constantly trying to get like consciousness shifting ideas through, which was such hard work, but it happened now
Mhm.
and then. But it was also definitely transmission. And then, that classic thing of in the 20s, late 20s, going, the life I've consciously created just does not fit my soul. It's not what I came here for. I'd been studying the mystical arts for many, many years. I know Sonia Choquette, who you interviewed in my
Mhm.
20s, she was my teacher. I went to
Oh,
workshops with her in
oh,
London and America. And yeah, she was a great, great
oh.
guide in like psychic development and yeah, just kind of encouraging me to trust that call.
Yeah.
And so I'd actually done one of those because I knew it was Hay House. So I was like, because I'd seen that vision, I didn't want to waste time kind of, I would have gone elsewhere, but I was like, okay, I just need to do whatever I can to make it happen. And so I spent a lot of time writing a proposal, and it took me a while to know what the book was, and in the end it was like I got it so clearly from my guides that it was a book for light workers to find the courage to answer the call themselves. And I'm like, why is that it? Why can't it be creativity? Why can't it be something else? Why does it have to be the very thing that I really don't want to do myself, which is always the way, right?
Of
And
course.
so I did it, and I did a really good proposal. I spent a lot of time on it. It was really good. And I got it submitted through two different people. One was Sonia, one was someone else. And so it was
Oh,
at Hay House, but they hadn't read it. I then was like, I'm going to do the writer's workshop because it's just like I imagined it like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where it's like there's a golden ticket somewhere. So it's like someone's got
right.
to win it. So I might as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I've submitted, and what I didn't know is they hadn't read my proposal. It was in there, but they hadn't actually gotten to it. But with the writers workshop, the amazing thing about that is that every single proposal gets read. And so mine did
Mhm.
get read, and I won it. And yeah, I remember when I got the phone call, it was like, oh, such a relief, because it was like, I think there is these moments, we have to say yes to them.
Yeah.
But they're like destiny moments in our soul's path. And that was definitely one of them. And I think that was the tug that I always felt, that was one of them. And I just felt, I think there were moments maybe before that where it could have happened sooner, and definitely later as well. And so there was this deep soul relief I felt, where it's like,
Oh,
oh,
I can
okay,
imagine.
it's chinked in or something. Yeah.
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 Oh, beautiful. And then so you won the contest, clearly wrote a
Hmm.
gorgeous book. And then like, did you have a massive following? Is that how your book sold a gajillion copies? How did that happen?
So I think that I had worked really hard at growing my platform, but it wasn't that big at that point. I think it was like I knew I needed to hit, this is back then, the number that I'd been told was 5,000 on all the channels. And so I
Yeah.
just really I worked hard to do that. I'd been working, like I'd quit my career by at that point and was all in for writing the book and building my business. And I'd been doing soul readings for many years as well. Um, and doing, yeah, workshops in London from my living room to then, bigger spaces as well. And yeah, but it was interesting. Reed Tracy, who is the head of Hay House, the president of Hay House, remember him saying to me, it was quite a surprise when your book came out, because I was with the UK. The UK is where I won the writers workshop. And normally you go with the UK, and then if your book goes well, you go with the US and Australia, etc. I'm obviously Australian, so I had that as well. But he said, I ended up investing a lot in, I paid my friend to do a video trailer. Back then you had to do, I don't know if you have had to do it, but it was a bit
Yeah.
different a few years ago. Had to do these like sales videos to the Hay
Yes.
House
Yeah.
team,
You
and
still
you'd
have
go,
to do that.
oh, you do, yeah. But
Yeah.
back then you had to be like, hi, Reed, Patty, and everyone at Hay House. I'm Rebecca Campbell, and this is my book. I really went for it with that. Like, it was impeccable. And so I treated that like a book launch almost.
Yeah.
And because my goal was to be picked up by the US, not just the UK. And I did. And but yeah, what Reed said, he was like, it was really interesting. Normally people are big in their city, and then it just kind of expands like that. Whereas with you, it kind of went immediately, with those three audiences of Australia, US, and the UK. So it felt like, and I think this often happens. I worked very, very hard. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I didn't, but I'd been working really hard, but not kind of letting myself be visible. And then the moment I kind
Mm.
of let it happen, it did accelerate quite quickly. Yeah, but all the work had been being done. I just was like too afraid to really, really go in it. Does that make sense?
Of course, I mean, it is such a dance of making it
Mm.
happen and letting it happen, allowing it to happen, and
Yes, you're
both are
so
necessary.
right. You're so right. And I think there are periods as well where it's like you go in and deep and you're with the potency, and then all of a sudden, okay, it's time for the bloom now.
It's time for the what now?
The bloom now, like the
Yes,
summer. Mm,
absolutely, absolutely. Well, what would be your advice to, because I will share it with those communities, what would be your
mm.
advice to first time authors to, yeah, what would be
I
your
would just
advice? What would you
say,
have, what
like,
would you have liked to have known then?
write to yourself. Don't try and like feel like, because I think when you're particularly when you're beginning, and maybe your whole your whole career as well, you can maybe feel this pressure to be an expert. But if you write to yourself, whether it's you now or you 5 years ago, you 20 years ago, you when you were 4 years old, it can be felt in the heart of those who
Mm.
are reading, because I think we're intrinsically connected. Whereas if we're trying to like write purely from the head, or just like, this is what you should know, I am an expert, da 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 da, it's coming from a different place. So I think that is the most liberating thing as a writer, and it empowers all of us, that like we can all do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that there is a way spirit moves through each of us that it doesn't through any. I mean, we are all one, but then we all also have our soul signature and our
Mm,
service that is ours to
mm.
do, which we can say no, or we can say yes.
Exactly. Exactly. How about you? What advice would you give? Mm.
Oh, I did not expect that. Um, for first time writers or just any.
Yeah.
Well, very similar to yours, it would be to truly take off all the filters of what I should write, what will sell, what's safe, what's, going to be
Mm,
accessible, but to truly allow spirit to write through you in a way that is very unique, but at the same time, always with an eye to how am I serving? How does this contribute? What is God's contribution, God, Goddess's contribution through me? And I would say write every day as close to the same time as you can. You know, there's another, I don't remember who said it, but it's like, I only write, very prolific author, only write when inspired to. Fortunately, inspiration shows up every morning at 9 a.m.
Yes, so good. Yeah, there's some great books by a man called Stephen Pressfield, like War of Art, and there's another one. So good. I learned from him. I don't remember the quote, but it was essentially, and this really was life-changing for me, to realize that the only difference between an amateur and a professional writer is the professional shows up, like you say, like 9 a.m. every day or whatever, because like with any craft, and it's not just about writing, it's about anything that we're called to do and we want to become a like so-called master of. It's like, it's just practice. It's just showing up and up and up every single day. Such good advice. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just realizing it's going to be confronted, and life is going to happen and get in the way. And it's to continue to show up with love and to keep sacrificing the voices of, you know, what am I supposed to be writing? What will people want me to write? And write what is in your soul to write. What's already written, really, just like you saw your path. And that's such an honor. And then, but the thing is you walked it. I'm sure there were many times along the way where you could have chosen out.
Totally. It was, and I remember receiving this when I was writing the first book. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. But it was like exactly what I needed to hear, which was sometimes the only thing harder than answering the call is not answering it. And so it's like, it doesn't, because I think particularly when you hear, you know, paths that have been walked and it's all unfolded, you know, it's beautiful and this has all happened, you kind of forget that actually there's almost always resistance before expansion. You know, it's just like, it's the codes of life in birth, you know, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction.
Completely. I love that you said that. All right, my dear. Well, now it is time to move into meditation and just see if we can share with our listeners and viewers a bit of the richness you have so incredibly generously shared. I didn't even get through all the synchronicities. Is that not amazing?
Well, just as well we've got part 2.
Exactly. Okay, beloved. So I'm going to start the meditation and Rebecca's going to bring us home. So again, let's enter into that circle. Let's open in every way into the Christed light, into the light of the Holy Spirit, into grace. Being aware of entering a portal with a canopy of light over us, light within us, and just now drop grounding cords deep into the earth. Being aware that your body is made of light. And entering this sacred circle, connect now to the truth that you are one with your ancestors, one with all your soulic experiences, through all lifetimes, going backward and forward, all collapses into this moment as we open into and as that light of the Holy Spirit. Being aware of the grandmothers around us, of the divine feminine holding us and rocking us, and just allow your body to gently rock, being comforted and being communed into Mother Gaia, into the Mother God. Rocking as well with all your sisters. And knowing now you are not separate from the divine feminine, from the mother god, you are one with her. And you bloom as she blooms, and you recede as she recedes. And being aware of being deeply planted, held by the earth, so you're stable and secure. The growing things, the tendrils wrapping around you, even as your soul soars into the high heavens. All one, as within, so without, as above, so below. And as you soar up ever higher, you're aware of the simland, of the celestial sounds of the universe, of the celestial sounds even higher in the higher realms of light, traveling upward. And as we hold in a moment of silence, listen to the cosmic sound. And be aware if your body starts to move differently. And now dropping that reference point and traveling higher into the spiritual sky and even beyond, into the ecstasy of existence. And together, all of us together, let's now, and I would ask you to join me, Rebecca, in chanting Anahu, which is Sanskrit, and I'll ask those in my studio here with me to chant as well. Anahu is evoking the empathy and the oneness of God, very ancient mantra. Let's do 3, just Hu now. And in this sacred sound and silence, I ask you, Rebecca, to lead us on.
Feeling the emanations of the sacred chant, primordial sounds of God and the universe. I want you to feel like within your cells, your ancient self, the part of you that chose to be here in this body at this time, in this life. And really connecting in with your celestial true nature, calling all parts of your soul, your ancient self, home. Returning to your heart, to your body, to your cells. Beginning to gently travel back down towards Earth through all of the realms. Into your body. A sacred destination for this life. And as you do descend into matter in a way deeper than before, with your breath really calling all parts of your celestial star, ancient self more fully into physical form. Creating even more space and room for that ancient one to descend even more fully into your body. And from your body, dropping roots down through all of the layers of the earth beneath you, till they make their way to the sweet sacred waters at the center of the earth. Resting here and drinking in any quality that you're yearning for now. Really feeling how you are the bridge of heaven and earth. Without you, without your voice, angels have no voice. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. And ending as we began, gently rocking, embracing yourself, perhaps squeezing your arms, your legs, and stretching. If your eyes are closed, gently opening them. Beautiful.
That was beautiful. And it's so funny if I were to ask those in my studio here. Did that not sound like a meditation I would do? Everybody's nodding.
Yes, I love it.
I feel like I've found a long lost sister.
I feel the same. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Well, my beloved listeners, you have got to, and you know I don't usually speak that way, you have got to buy this book. Your Soul How to Dream, Your Life is It is the best title. Really, it's such a gorgeous book. I was lucky enough to get a early copy, a digital one. It's so beautiful. So it's very, very easy to find. Please go buy it now. It's Rebecca Campbell.me/Your Soul How to Dream. Of course, I will link that on YouTube and all the podcasts, and we'll post it for y'all. Go buy it now, Rebecca Campbell.me, Your Soul How to Dream. When you pre-order it, so it officially launches October 29th, but when you pre-order it now, you get some incredible gifts. You get an event, a ceremonial event with Rebecca included on Salwan, and that's October 31st, Halloween. And so during this loving live stream, Rebecca will guide you through healing practices to help you release what no longer serves you and step into the life you are meant to live. Gorgeous. Plus, you'll get instant access to that first chapter where she shares about the experiences that she so generously shared about in the beginning. So it's a gorgeous chapter. I've listened to it several times. And what else? So again, RebeccaCampbell.me/Your Soul How to Dream. What else would you like them to know about your book?
Well, I think it's a book that will meet you where you are. And if you know anyone going through a dark night of the soul as well, it's a comforting book in that sense as well. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It very much will. The first chapter is called Fall Into My Arms. Is that right? That's what the book feels like. It feels like you're in the arms of the mother and you're held and you're seen. So please do buy this book. Rebecca's very easy to find on Instagram. Her website has a plethora of free resources. And then there's her beautiful membership group. Is that still active, Sanctuary?
Yeah, the Sanctuary. Yep.
Sanctuary. So wonderful resources. So RebeccaCampbell.me, Your Soul How to Dream, very easy to find. I am beyond thrilled. We have a part 2.
Me too. Yay.
That will be very fun. That will be coming up in November. Yes, we'll record in October for November. I wanted to let y'all know about my next show, which is with my friend Chase Jarvis, who's cited as one of the most influential photographers of the past decade. He also founded Creative Live, which is considered the precursor to Instagram. He has a big podcast with every influencer on the planet, and he just wrote a book, very heartfelt book called Never Play It Safe. So he'll be my next guest. If you'd like to know more about my work, please go to aliciadoss.com. I have lots of free resources and Angel Toolkit. Sign up for the early release of my book, Your Archangelic Ancestry. And access to the podcast with beautiful influencers like Rebecca. Rebecca, oh my goodness, just seeing your book dropping into the hands of all those waiting for it, that they might truly feel and know their own mystical self. You are an incredible guide, and this has been such a delight.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
It's been such an
Beautiful.
honor.
Thank you.
Such an honor to have you. I can't wait for part 2. Beloved listeners and viewers, thank you so much. Live your love. Bye for now.